Alrighty, everybody, we got to talk about some rigged hockey tonight. I'm going to do my full first round recap after the game ends tomorrow night. We got one more game left in the first round. But for those of you that watched my Stanley Cup preview video, I told you why you want to have that future on the Florida Panthers to beat the Boston Bruins because they got a real shot. I recommended one parlay I really liked, a 3-team parlay. Two of those 3 teams have advanced. We got the final one will be determined tomorrow, but I gave people a bunch of singles and I said, this is one you want to have. And you can consider a parlay with Florida or Seattle with the other 3 teams. If you did that, you're really sitting pretty. If you had the balls to do it when Florida was down 3-1, then you're really happy tonight. But again, just how often in NHL history do these dominant teams in the regular season always fail in the playoffs? It happens constantly. The President Trophy winner has not won the Cup since 2013. It's been over a decade now. Just time and time again, right? You had Columbus over Tampa in 2019, and you have a very similar situation happen here. So let's go through this. And again, the entire world of professional sports, including the NHL, is completely rigged and scripted. And that's how we can call the champion damn near every single year. The team we have to win the Stanley Cup, they're already on to the second round. So looking at this game here, I just want you to see this. Notice how Florida is the 27th state in order of statehood. Florida just advanced and won their first Game 7 in 27 years. And they won the series. They won the series and the game 4-3. Florida 43, Panthers 43, Bruins 43. So Carter Verhaeghe scores the winning goal in overtime for Florida, right? He's 27 years old. Notice Jeremy Swayman for the Bruins made 27 saves. Go figure. And notice it's 106 days to Verhaeghe's upcoming birthday and how this is the 106th season of the NHL. Now, what made this series tricky, and the reason I didn't want to put it in my main 3-team parlay, because there were 3 teams we really liked to advance, and the other teams, we liked Seattle, they got it done. We liked Florida, they got it. The only team that bit me in the ass in the first round was LA. LA was the only one that bit me in the ass. 2 years in a row, been burned by the Kings. I won't forget it. But I like to try to get every series right. You know what I mean? But, hey, sometimes you take an L. But what made this series tricky, because this is the post, for those of you that are on my Patreon page, this is the same post that I had when I made the video. But I said, well, Florida, if they win the series and they get 4 wins, they'll get their 29th playoff win all time, like how Bruins is 29. However, had they lost, they would have got their 43rd. And like we said, Florida, Panthers, Bruins, all 43, right? And it was Game 7 where it ended 4-3 and the score was 4-3. But the only thing I was wrong about in this series was I really thought Florida would win Game 1. I thought they would get to 5-1 versus the Bruins all time in the playoffs. They did not. They lost Game 1. That kind of surprised me. That was the only thing that was a surprise in this series. Not surprised the Bruins went down. I mean, those of you that made a bracket and had Boston winning the Stanley Cup this year, you got to learn your gematria. But, yeah, it looked good for Florida. That's the reason I put the asterisk next to this. I said it's dangerous. It's dangerous. But if you're going to bet the series, there's no point to bet the Bruins, right? Panthers paid like 4-1. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. So for the Avalanche, and what a perfect script they had for Florida, they had an even better one for the Avalanche, for the Colorado fans out there who can't believe you lost to Seattle. Again, you should learn your gematria, because one thing I did not realize about this, I didn't say this on the Patreon. I talked about Because I do the individual games, I do this every day, and I just copy and paste this, and then I plug in the gematria and say, hey, if you're interested in playing these games, here's what you can look at. I like to bet the series. I prefer series betting. But what I didn't realize, and I hate when I do stupid shit, my brain doesn't function properly. I didn't realize that if both dogs won, road teams would get 31 playoff wins during this year's Stanley Cup playoffs. They just set a record. 30 was the prior record set back in 2012. Road teams just won 31 games against 31 games in the first round. That's never happened before in NHL history. And I didn't realize, I was like, hockey's 31, Avalanche is 31. Road teams currently with 31 wins in this round of the playoffs. 31 is the 11th prime number. New York is the 11th state. Is that foreshadowing for tomorrow night? It just might be. But the thing was, I said if Boston won, I mentioned this on the Patreon, I said if Boston wins the first game, then road teams would have 19 wins and Seattle's 19. Like how it says here that the reigning Stanley Cup champion has advanced past the first round in 4 of the past 7 seasons and 19 times since 1987. 1987 was the first year they went to a best of 7 for each round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. 19 times, right? Seattle, the 19 city. The only other NHL team that has a connection to 19 is Buffalo because Sabres is 19 in the most pure cipher. So that's what I was looking at there, and I was thinking, man, but I totally missed the 31. I should have thought of that, because I was like 29. They had 29 wins all time, and that's why I said or the road teams had 29 losses. I'm like, well, the Bruins is 29. Is that a sign the Bruins win? Man, I was like, that series is iffy, but again, if you're going to play it, might as well bet Florida. Because Boston doesn't pay anything. So, yeah, we had the Panthers winning. We had the Kraken winning. And the thing about Seattle, the thing about this series, what I said before, I'm a little surprised they did not close it out in Game 6 because of this right here. I said Colorado, their playoff record, they have 140 wins. And I said, well, Seattle Kraken is 142. And Kraken alone is 24. That could have been the narrative if they stayed on 24 series losses. But I said that's counting their history as the Quebec Nordique. I don't like that. I like their history just as the Avalanche, right? So they could get their 102nd playoff loss all time. And I said, well, Kraken's 102. Seattle Kraken 142. Did the Kraken win 4 games to 2? Well, they didn't. Instead, they won 4 games to 3, like Seattle Kraken's 43. And I was even thinking that. I was like, because Seattle Kraken's 43, Seattle Seahawks is 43. They won their only Super Bowl with 43 points. Mariners is also 43. And I was like, are they just going to put it to Game 7 for that exact reason? And I should have just stuck with my initial thought, but I was thinking, are the Avalanche coming off of 142 playoff wins? Turns out they did, but Seattle still won the series. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a glorious start to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and people might think, well, you're going to eat those words, Shane, if that game tomorrow goes the other way, but I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll see. We will see. But again, got to learn your gematria, see right through these games. So far, had Florida to win, had Toronto to win. I didn't like the Carolina Islanders series, but I did tell people that, if you're going to play this series, you might as well bet on, I said, again, there's not much value with Carolina, but I'll just show you this. For those of you asking where you get that, you get it at records.nhl.com. So if you go to records.nhl.com, hover your mouse over playoffs, and then go down to standings, hover your mouse over that, come over to overall and click it. This will give you the team's entire history, and you can sort it alphabetically if you want. So they did update this, right? 29 wins, 42 losses for the Panthers. And the thing about that Carolina series was the Islanders, I said, well, they can stay on 37 playoff series wins all time. Carolina's 37. That's likely what happens. It ended up being the case. I wasn't crazy about that series, but they got it done. So we favored. So basically, those 3 series, right? Dallas and Minnesota, this series was easy to call because Minnesota, 13th playoff season, 13th playoff series loss. Dallas, the 13 city. So we like the Stars there. And the only series that screwed me was Edmonton and Edmonton and LA, because Edmonton and LA, I was banking on the fact that the Oilers were going to fall to 6-3 in the playoffs against the Kings because Wayne Gretzky's 63 and these were Gretzky's two teams. Ended up not being the case. You can't, you know what I mean? You don't want to miss out on an upset. That's the thing. That's why I told people, bet on the Panthers, bet on the Kraken. You don't want to miss out on an upset. So I said the Kings have a shot. There was no clear-cut narrative one way or the other in that. I was banking on the Wayne Gretzky thing. Bit me in the ass on that one, but hey, can't win them all. And Vegas and Winnipeg, I told people, I said, if there's a middle finger of first-round series, that's it. And I originally had Winnipeg, or I originally had Vegas, and then you saw this, if you watch the video I put out on Patreon, I said I originally had Vegas simply because of the fact that if Winnipeg loses, they'll get their 27th playoff loss as the Winnipeg Jets, not counting their time as Atlanta. And I'm like, Vegas and Jets is both 27. That's probably going to happen. But then I said, I'm like, if the Jets win, they get to if the Jets win, they would get to 4-6 in playoff series all time against the Vegas Golden Knights, which is 199, the 46 prime. But I always say, I don't like taking saying, 4-6 is like 46. And I don't like to do that. I don't like putting hyphens in front of numbers to make numbers fit. And I don't like looking at teams' overall history if they're a franchise variant. Like they moved from Atlanta to Winnipeg. I solely like their history as Winnipeg. And I should have just rolled with that and went with Vegas. But again, you like to try to come up with the upset narrative, but there was not a lot that jumped out about this Vegas series. So if you want to give me 2 L's, those are the 2. Everything else looks good. And again, you hit on a 4-1 dog, you hit on a 2-1 dog like Colorado and Seattle. You can't be upset about that. So again, perfect script. And we might have another one tomorrow night. There's some incriminating things there if you're a Rangers fan, but we'll leave it there, guys. Till next time.